Throughout the history of technological development, humans have always sought to expand their capabilities through tools and devices. From simple tools to complex machines, we continuously create means to enhance our strength, intelligence, and abilities. The hypothesis of implanting a control chip into the human brain from birth represents the farthest step in this endeavor, not just enhancing, but completely controlling what makes us human. With the development of neuroscience, brain-machine interfaces, and artificial intelligence, this hypothesis no longer belongs purely to the realm of science fiction. Scientists have succeeded in implanting electrodes into the brain to treat certain neurological disorders, and companies like Neuralink are developing advanced brain-machine interfaces. However, the gap between these medical interventions and the comprehensive control chip implantation remains large, but not insurmountable in the future. If this hypothesis becomes reality, human society will change in profound and irreversible ways. Let's explore the possible consequences. A comprehensive brain control chip, if developed, might have the following functions. Neurochemical control, adjusting the production and reception of hormones and neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol, thereby directly influencing a person's mood, motivation, and emotions. Cognitive control, affecting thinking processes, decision-making, and problem-solving, possibly enhancing or inhibiting specific cognitive functions. Memory management, the ability to record, erase, or even implant memories, fundamentally altering how people experience and learn from the past. Sensory control, filtering and adjusting sensory information to the brain, helping enhance or diminish experiences such as pain, pleasure, or other emotions. Network connectivity, allowing data transmission between the brain and computers or networks, creating a completely new form of communication and information sharing. If such chips are implanted in the brain from birth, a developing brain would fully integrate with this technology, creating a profound symbiotic relationship that cannot be achieved when implanted in adulthood. A society where every citizen is controlled by a chip from birth would undergo fundamental changes in structure and function. Firstly, the concept of crime and deviant behavior could disappear or change significantly. If the chip can suppress violent impulses, greed, or behaviors considered antisocial, crime could be eliminated at its root. This would lead to fundamental changes in the judicial, police, and prison system, institutions that could become obsolete. Economic productivity could increase significantly when everyone is optimized for their jobs. Brain chips could stimulate focus, creativity, or specific skills according to work requirements. Work motivation could be maintained at a high level through stimulating the brain's reward system, and fatigue or boredom could be minimized. Public health would also be significantly improved. Chips could regulate eating habits, promote physical activity, and prevent harmful behaviors such as smoking or substance abuse. Psychological disorders like depression, anxiety, and addiction could be controlled through the adjustment of brain chemistry. However, these benefits come with severe costs. The right to intellectual privacy, a fundamental concept in modern society, would no longer exist. If the chip connects to a central system, every thought and emotion could be monitored. The boundary between the individual and the state, or any organization controlling the chip system, would be blurred. The most crucial question in this hypothesis is, who will control the chips? How will the power structure be shaped? In a centralized control scenario, a totalitarian government could program the chips of the entire population. This would create an unprecedented level of control in human history. Political dissent could be completely eliminated by programming the chip to generate discomfort when opposition thoughts occur. The entire population could be adjusted to feel allegiance to the state and trust in official statements. In a more decentralized model, control could be divided among various organizations or even individuals. For example, parents might have the right to program their children's chips until a certain age, after which adults can decide some adjustments for themselves. However, even in this case, there must be basic laws and limits on what can be programmed. Another scenario might be commoditized control, wherein private companies own the chip technology and offer different service packages based on affordability. This could lead to a new stratified society, where the wealthy can purchase premium upgrades for their brains while the poor only have access to basic functions. Regardless of the model adopted, the existence of brain-controlled chip technology will pose unprecedented ethical, legal, and social challenges. Perhaps the most profound consequence of implanting controlled chips into the brain is the impact on the very concept of human identity and free will. If a person's thoughts, emotions, and desires can be manipulated by an external device, can we still say their actions are free? If the chips are programmed to induce feelings of happiness when following society's rules and discomfort when breaking them, are a person's moral choices truly their own? Traditional moral structures based on the concept of free choice and personal responsibility will be challenged. If someone commits a violent crime due to malfunctioning of their chip, who will be held responsible? The individual, the chip manufacturer, or the programmer? The concept of personal identity and uniqueness would also change. If people can be programmed to have specific personality traits, the line between a person's true self and what is created through the chip will become blurred. We might witness a homogenization of personalities, where traits deemed socially good are enhanced and bad traits eliminated. Spiritual and religious experiences could also be profoundly affected. If states of mind associated with spiritual experiences can be artificially created through brain stimulation, it raises questions about the authenticity and value of such experiences. The nature of human resistance. Is complete control feasible? Despite the immense power of the hypothesized chip implant technology, there remains a question about whether complete control is truly feasible. History shows that humans have remarkable adaptability and resistance to all forms of oppression. In a society with mandatory brain chips, we can predict the emergence of resistance movements. There could be secret communities that refuse to chip their children, believing that spiritual freedom is more important than security or efficiency. These individuals would have to live outside mainstream society, possibly in remote areas or underground communities. Moreover, the potential for hacking the chips is also a looming issue. As technology evolves, there will be individuals seeking to disable, alter, or circumvent the limitations of chips in their brain. This could lead to a continuous arms race between those designing control measures and those trying to break them. Biological evolution might even occur. Over generations, the human brain could develop natural mechanisms to counter the effects of the chip. The human brain has incredible adaptability and might create new neural pathways to compensate for or surpass outside intervention. Not all scenarios of brain chip implantation have to be adversarial. One can envision a model where humans and technology cooperate instead of one controlling the other. In such a scenario, chips could be primarily designed as assistance tools, enhancing the brain's natural abilities rather than overriding them. Chips could offer information and suggestions, but the final decision would belong to the user. For instance, when someone feels angry, the chip could alert them to changing physiological conditions and suggest relaxation techniques, but not impose calmness forcibly. A system based on consensus could also be developed, where individuals have the right to decide which chip functions they wish to activate and when. Essentially, humans would cooperate with their chips to determine the optimal mental state for each situation. However, even in such cooperative models, the risks of power abuse and complex questions about the authenticity of human experience when enhanced or adjusted by technology remain. The hypothesis of a society where individuals are controlled from birth by brain chips presents a fundamental paradox. On one hand, it promises to eliminate many of humanity's most troubling issues: crime, conflict, mental illnesses, even suffering. But on the other hand, it could strip away the very qualities that make us human: free will, autonomy, and the ability to experience the full spectrum of human emotions. History has shown that perfection, when imposed from the outside, often comes at the cost of freedom and diversity. Societies that seek to eliminate all forms of dissent and difference often end up in oppression and stagnation. Ultimately, the value of this hypothesis lies not in its technical feasibility, but in the philosophical questions it raises. It forces us to confront fundamental questions about the nature of humanity. Is freedom a necessary condition for a meaningful life? Is suffering an indispensable part of the human experience? When does technological enhancement become control? And where does that boundary lie? As brain-machine interface technology continues to develop, these questions will become more pressing. Perhaps the greatest value in exploring this hypothesis is not to chart a future course, but as a caution, a reminder of the importance of developing technology with caution and respect for the qualities that define human identity.